since Frieren became a top-rated anime, people have been talking about it a lot. Some say that it deserves the #1 spot, while others say it's a bit too overrated. I mean, it makes sense because Frieren has fewer ratings compared to Fullmetal Alchemist, which has over 2.1 million views. However, it is the case and the anime is not the best-rated anime ever. But before diving into everything, let's quickly recap the series. Frieren Beyond Journey's End follows the story of an elf named Frieren, who was once part of the hero's party that defeated the Demon Lord. However, for someone like Frieren who's lived for over 1,000 years, this adventure was just a brief moment in her long life. Soon after this adventure, Frieren begins her journey to pursue her passion of collecting magic spells. In a blink of an eye, Frieren found herself attending the funeral of her comrade Himmel the hero. At that moment, she realized just how fragile human lives are and how long she'd been ignoring the wheel of time. During his funeral, people kept ridiculing her for not even shedding a tear at his comrade's funeral, and at this time, Frieren kept making excuses to herself that she didn't even know Himmel that well, and that they only traveled for merely 10 years. At that point, Frieren started crying and questioning herself, why didn't I try to know him better? I'm pretty sure all of us are human here and know just how long 10 years are. A lot of things can change during this time, but for Frieren, it was nothing. What Frieren didn't realize during her time with the hero's party was that the others were genuinely striving to form a meaningful connection with her. To Frieren, however, the party was merely a group that existed to assist her in pursuing new spells and magic. Unfortunately, Frieren realizes it quite late, and all that's left of Himmel are his memories that she will carry on forever. Another interesting thing I'd like to mention here is how elves perceive relationships differently from humans. For humans, their entire life revolves around developing relationship with others and slowly growing them over time. You can also compare these relationships to the life cycle of trees, how small conversations grow into bonds of emotions that lasts forever. As she continues her journey with her apprentice Fern and Stark, Frieren discovers that her understanding of her old friends runs much deeper than she thought. Moreover, she's forming new connections with people every day. Frieren isn't as distant as she once believed herself to be. She compares her everyday events with her past and how she tackled all these difficulties and adventures with her comrades. She started acknowledging all these little things in life, including food, little adventures, and even relationships. If we compare all this to Frieren's old self, it is quite evident that she's changed a lot. It's almost like she's truly started understanding human mortality, and I'm pretty sure most of us also need to understand this. We often take things for granted, and before we know it, all those disappear and all that's left is regret. Spending time with your family, watching the sunset, and enjoying your mom's cooking, all these things might not seem that significant, but trust me, when you get old, you will miss them. Anyway, we're talking about Frieren here, but this show is definitely not for people who are looking for some insane action and adventure story. I agree that Frieren's pacing is a bit slow, but it's not slower than a certain anime I know. There are definitely some moments that will get you insanely hyped with the animation and the battle sequences, but the overall story is a lot slower. If you remove all these things, all you are left with is a story of someone who has lived over 1,000 years and experienced the wheel of time. Time is a weird phenomenon. When we're happy or engaged, time feels like it flies by, as if moments are condensed, almost as though our minds prioritize experience over counting time. Conversely, negative emotions like sadness, anxiety, or boredom stretch our perception of time, making it feel elongated and slow. For humans, things matter a lot. We tend to remember and cherish memories owing to our shorter lifespans, but for Frieren, it was different. She had no reason to remember anything because in the long run, it won't even matter. Even for us, the silly things we did in our elementary school don't matter as much when we get older and newer memories take over them. Now, imagine if something like this happens for over 1,000 years, and this is where perspective comes in. If you were given the choice to live over 1,000 years, how would you spend your life? This is the thing that elevates Frieren over other anime. The plot is not consistent because Frieren is almost an episodic show, as it revolves around Frieren's everyday journey and what she experiences as the journey continues. There is no particular end goal or anything like other shows, and this broadens the horizon of Frieren. There are unlimited possibilities, and the show literally explores most of them from the eyes of someone who has lived for over 1,000 years and experienced the change around her. I know I'm being a bit dramatic here, saying all this philosophical shit, but trust me, Frieren is not that deep. There are definitely some moments that will make you shed a tear or two, but overall, it is a bittersweet show. At some point, you'll start wondering if there is a plot twist or anything like that, and the main characters will get ambushed out of nowhere, but I hate to break it to you, this shit only happens in shonen. If you want something like that to happen, go read avoid Berserk or maybe Jujutsu Kaisen might savor your weird-ass taste. In the beginning, Frieren seems like your everyday isekai fantasy show that'll have an overpowered protagonist, boring-ass fights, and literally zero plot. However, Frieren is entirely different in the sense that this show takes the weirdest aspect of isekai shows, which is obviously the plot, and heightens it to another level. If you're someone who hasn't felt the touch of a woman in a long time just like me and likes watching wholesome stuff, Frieren is for you. It's the type of show which makes you appreciate the characters and even forces you to know them better. There are episodes with the main cast chilling out in a village or some town and helping out the neighbors with their everyday work. There are moments that really catch your attention, including Stark overcoming his doubt and Sign moving past his regret. Another thing I really liked about Frieren is how it manages all these subplots. Let's take Fern and Stark's romance for example. In most series, the romance subplot is usually there from the beginning, and most of the time it feels a bit odd and gets annoying. However, in this case, Fern and Stark start out as complete strangers who had nothing to do with each other, and as the story progresses, they get to know each other and slowly fall in love. This makes the show even more enjoyable rather than annoying. Characterized by literary masterpieces such as The Lord of the Rings, high fantasy is frequently considered an escape genre. On the other hand, modern fantasy has started to be redefined by anime and manga, which usually features fast-paced storylines that pull readers in whether or not they're ready for them. This is the unique quality of Frieren. It moves slowly and deliberately, following the conventional high fantasy pace scheme. The characters are well developed, the universe is expertly constructed, and the ordinary is given a magical touch. However, it takes work from the audience, particularly from those accustomed to the fast-paced nature of contemporary narrative. Frieren's brilliance, however, keeps it from being boring. Kanehito Yamada's story expertly combines high fantasy and modern appeal, enticing the audience with the promise of an emotional journey, rather than depending on shock value or excessive violence. And as we follow along, almost casually drawn in by the series' intelligent design, Yamada has accomplished something difficult, and it is only as we interact with the series that we understand how easily we've been lured in. I'm pretty sure most of you are probably itching to watch this masterpiece, but nothing is perfect. Frieren obviously has some flaws, and it makes sense that we talk about that as well. At this point, y'all must have realized that Frieren's overall pacing is quite slow, and if you're someone who's into shows like Hunter x Hunter, Jujutsu Kaisen, Naruto, you'll probably find it a bit boring. I personally dropped it a couple of times before getting invested into it, and trust me, it was worth it. Besides this, the characters sometimes feel a bit too stoic. I mean, with Frieren, it is understandable because she's like an old man at this point who has experienced a lot of things, but Fern? Seriously? And some other characters too? It almost feels like they know too much about the world and don't give a rat's ass about anyone. Nevertheless, Frieren is an utter masterpiece that deserves the top spot, and even though I want to recommend this to people, I want them to discover this show themselves and realize just how fascinating it is. There is obviously some criticism about the show, which makes sense because it is literally the top-ranked anime out there. It might not be the greatest anime of all time, it is surely one of the best. Season 2 has been announced already, so the adventure of Frieren will continue. Let's see how it's going to be, and maybe it will be even better. Let me know in the comments below if you think Frieren deserves to be the best anime ever. See ya, bye!